Rishi Sunak is desperately trying to keep his small boats plan afloat as he urges his own MPs to help him finish the job, not finish his job. Rebellious rumblings have been rocking the Tory party, with dissenters claiming the controversial Rwanda plan will not fix the migrant crisis. Robert Jenrick, who was the Minister for Immigration, resigned last night, saying the government's emergency legislation for the scheme does not go far enough. Suella Braverman, who was Home Secretary until last month, also urged Sunak to toughen up proposals. But today, the Prime Minister hit back at critics, defending every inch of his approach.
For the people who say you should do something different, the difference between them and me is an inch, given everything that we have closed. We're talking about an inch, but that inch, by the way, is the difference between the Rwandans participating in this scheme and not. Talking about an inch of difference, and that inch making the difference between having an operational scheme where you can send someone or not, it's pretty clear that what we're doing is not only the right approach, it's the only approach.
OK, is it just me, or is Rishi Sunak becoming increasingly deranged and nonsensical? This thing about the inch of difference, I got so confused with him going on about the...
That was actually a joke.
I thought it was a joke. It's not only the right approach, it's the only approach, right? So, I mean, he's really, really just becoming like a mad... What do they call it, monomaniacs, when they just have one issue? That's how it feels with this Rwanda. Flogging a dead horse is one thing, but this has gone so far, I think, that it's very clear that immigration matters. It's not just, a doorstep issue. It really matters to people. And I think it's the thing that's going to lose in the next election, certainly going to lose Rishi Sunak his job.
I have to disagree there, because I don't think they've lost the next election. I don't think it's going to be about immigration. I think they could bring the boat crossings down to 0 and they've still lost the election, because it's a culture of incompetence in Westminster that's been headed by the Tories for the last, 13 years that we're just sick of. I do think they should do right by the country, because that is the oath that they've made. That is the promise that they've made to their constituents in this country, but I think it's far bigger than that. Actually, Rishi Sunak was more specific in his sort of letter or piece in The Spectator today about why he feels like Jenrick was wrong. So he said, if we were to oust the courts entirely, we would collapse the entire scheme. The Rwandan government have been clear that they would not accept the UK basing the scheme on legislation that could be considered in breach of our international law obligations, and there would be no point in passing a law that would leave us with nowhere to send the people to. So this is the difference between the Rishi Sunak camp and the Suella/Jenrick camp. The Suella/Jenrick camp are advocating for the notwithstanding clauses. So absolutely nothing that the courts can do about this legislation would be able to halt the scheme. And Rishi Sunak is saying that actually that element, the notwithstanding bit, is what the Rwandan government is rejecting. So even if they pushed for that, they would have to send them somewhere else.
You're talking about this policy as though it will ever work, as though it's
well, actually,
policy.
Lord
Even if it does work,
well,
even if it does work, they will have spent nearly 200 million on getting maybe 200 people off the runway.
Look, I do have I am skeptical, but there is precedence for this, because when the Australians tried it, they were actually very successful with it, sending migrants to Papua New Guinea. And Lord Sumption said that actually this could happen because the argument that the courts are making that Rwanda is not a safe place, by having the legislation in place as a backstop, saying actually the UK government is effectively stamping a guarantee that it is safe because we will not allow Rwanda to send any of the migrants elsewhere. That's what's making it safe.
I think we need to zoom out here, because you are brilliant on the detail, but honestly, none of this matters. It's not going to happen. And as you, it's even if it happens, the number that would be sent back is tiny. It's
and is it a deterrent? Is it going to stop people?
So it has been a deterrent. It has been a deterrent for the Australians, and the Australians spent $800 million a year to make it work, but they didn't have a problem 5 years after.
It's completely different to the Australian scheme. The Australian scheme was nothing to do with that. The Australian scheme actually involved turning back the boats. I've interviewed the Prime Minister that was responsible for that scheme. And you're right, it worked because they turned back the boats. Not a single person drowned or was injured as a result of the policy. They
sent the ones back in Australia to Papua New Guinea for processing.
They sent them to a place called Nauru. I never know how to pronounce this.
Nauru,
it is a very, very long way away. And you're right, the scheme worked. In my view, we should be doing exactly the same. That is a deterrent to send back the boats. But if we just zoom out for a minute, Rishi Sunak's in a panic here, and rightly so, because his entire platform on immigration has disintegrated. He has not a leg to stand on. Even if he could solve this, he has let in 700,000 net in over the last 12 months. And these figures are going to get worse. And yes, the Tories are going to almost certainly lose the election, and it will be an immigration election. And that the optics of what happened today, this emergency press conference, is all about him trying to regain the initiative. It won't work. Not for a minute will it work.
So the reason I gather Rwanda are now so hot on not breaking international law is because they feel that they've been burned in this whole deal. Yes, they've had human rights atrocities going there forever. But now the whole world is saying, look how bad Rwanda is. It's a terrible place. You can't send anyone there.
They look dirty.
Yeah, they thought that they were going to come onto the world stage and look, we're partners with Great Britain and we're making a difference. But actually now they're getting loads of bad publicity.
Actually, being insulted.
And being insulted.
Actually, the reason why the Rwandans are getting touchy with this is because there are other European countries, particularly like the Danish, that would follow suit if Britain's plan works. But the Danish have said, actually, we're not going to go as far as the Britons to completely jettison international law. So it's actually the precedent is set for future business.
One good thing that Sunak did say, I thought, was that Labour back the bill or tell us what your plans are. And I still don't know what Labour's alternative is.
I think that is. I mean, the other good thing that when Rishi Sunak says an inch doesn't matter, he spoke for men all over the country.
I did wonder where he was going with that.
Fair play to our Prime Minister. But
Ian,
you're
I'm glad you're
actually
taking the issue so seriously.
Well, it's very hard to take it seriously
is.
when we've seen this pantomime.
It's a pantomime.
That's been unfolding for God knows how long.
And it wasn't even his policy. He
wasn't
could have
his
ditched
policy.
it. He could have quietly ditched
Lord
it.
Sumption made those comments. Notionally, the idea, here is a place you don't want to go to. So if you come over in a boat to this country, you will be sent to that country. Notionally, we all get
Quite a good idea.
It sounds like a
theory.
great idea. The practicalities of it, the amounts of people that would not go are vast. The hurdles, even though he says he's ticked all of these international boxes and we've taken ourselves out of this scheme and that scheme. You can see Rishi trying to I've sorted that gallery out over there. That gallery, I've said the right sentence to appease them. I've said the right sentence to appease them. But what he's forgot is integrity, and he has none on this issue. I think JJ's point, though, is actually a salient one, and that is that what will happen when Labour come into power?
What else should they do? What else can be done? I mean, I know you've said turn back the boats, but at the end of the day, the EU is going to get over 1 million applications this year alone, and that's the largest they've ever gotten since this migrant crisis started. Germany alone is taking about a quarter of that. The Americans are facing 800,000 immigration asylum claims. What else can be done?
Are you guys seriously saying that the Rwanda policy is the only policy possible?
But it's not the only policy the government is pursuing. They've already given the French an obscene amount of money.
And it's the right approach, and it's the only one.
Well, but it's not the only one they're
I can't accept this is the only
Well, it's clearly
policy.
a nonsense. It's just
These are immigration departments. They must be... I'm not a
They've become obsessed
They must
with
be
it,
able...
and now they
it's
simply
become this...
can't go back.
Yeah.
And it's become an obsession, and they don't know how to get out of
Utterly
the
weird.
cul-de-sac.
He just cancelled HS2 like that. Why didn't he just come to power and say, do you know what, the Rwanda thing is off the table.
Yeah.
We're starting again, fresh sheet of paper, sit down, immigration people, and work out something
because
that
he thought it sounded good it was the sort of language.
It's now an absolute millstone. And the question, I think, is, will there be any more resignations over it? Who wants to be fronting the government's immigration policy right now? And I think this is a government that is absolutely teetering on the brink of being able to continue as an administration. And talking to MPs, I mean, the prediction now is they think that they can stagger on until October because there are so many parliamentary recesses. And how are they going to do this? By not actually having many votes, because where does ill discipline exhibit? It exhibits when you've got to rally your troops
entirely
and march them through lobbies. So basically, folks, we're now in a zombie government.
But you know when you go for a job interview and they say something good about yourself and you say, I work great under pressure. I feel like Sunak, under pressure, today, I thought he had some character about him. He wasn't a nerd today. He wasn't a little small MP.
Talking about his inches.
Oh, this is what we're going to do. Talk about the inches. We're just going to do that. I feel, and he's split Jenrick's role now into two. You're going to have one who deals with illegal migration and one who deals with legal migration. That's a good idea. But he should have done this last year. He's left it till last minute.
Hang on a minute. He's just resigned and he's split his job into, and you think that's a good thing?
I think it's better. Yeah, I think it's a good thing.
I know, but we're really scratching it.
But this is what I'm saying. He's now done a good act. It's a good deed. It is far too late, but that's a good idea to split into two
And
parts.
the tactics behind it, the two people you replace him with are hardline Brexiteers that resigned in May's government on principle. So there is a message being sent there.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I mean,
but
I don't think you should have I don't think you should have a minister for legal migration. It should be, the policy should be embedded in every department. It shouldn't be, there's one person person in charge of legal migration.
Yeah.
This goes to the heart of who we are as a country. You can't put one person in charge of it.
Yes,
Sorry,
fair
JJ.
point.
I'm not having any of that
Fair point.
gimmicky nonsense.
Well, it won me over.
He liked it.
Yes.